Hi guys, Mike here again. Hope is alive. Hope has a name. Hope's name is Jesus. Matthew 14 verses 13 to 14. When Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. That's the story about John the Baptist, how John the Baptist had been imprisoned, and then Herod's daughter danced and demanded his head on a platter, and they chopped off his head and killed him. And it says when Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Remember, John the Baptist was Jesus's cousin, not just a prophet who's gone before him, but also a relative, a blood relative, so to speak. And I can't help but think Jesus was mourning. He was in mourning. Remember, he's fully human and fully divine. So he felt it when things happened to people. And it says that he withdrew to pray. It doesn't say that he went to a resort to pray. It just says he withdrew to pray. So as I read that, I look at that and I think he stayed on the water because it says that crowds went on foot and they got there before him. So I imagine that he was just in the middle of the Sea of Galilee or lake, the lake, and he just had his alone time with God. And I don't know what happened in that alone time with God, but it was something powerful, because when he landed and he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them. He put his own mourning and grief to one side, and he had compassion for them, because Jesus was all about people. Then it goes on, it says he feeds the 5,000 with 5 loaves and 2 fish. And the key here really is, what do we do in the solitary place? What do we do when we're alone? What do we do when we're mourning, when we're grieving over something? How do we react? I'm reading autobiography of George Mueller, and it's going to take me a long time because it's a big book, but at one stage in his life he was traveling for 43 hours. This is in the 1800s. This is not today's traveling for 43 hours. This is carriages, and this is old bone shaker trains, that type of thing, and overland by horse and that type of thing. And after traveling for 43 hours, he got onto a mail carriage carrying the mail, and he was all alone with just a driver outside. And he says, for the first time in 43 hours, I could close my eyes, I could lift my hands, and I could pray without interruption. I just shouted aloud for hours unto the Lord, singing his praises, telling him how wonderful and beautiful he was. And it restored my soul, he goes on to say. And I think, wow, isn't that great? So, you know, for you, maybe that means praying in the car. I pray in the car, I shout out loud. I tell you what, I'm glad we don't have traffic lights here in Pukekohe, because if I stopped at the lights and people were looking at me, they'd wonder who I was talking to sometimes or what I was saying. Anyway, it's having that space and that place to be able to pray and shout his praises and his proclamations and his promises back to him. Because remember, what you do in private determines what you do in public. So just remember, get alone to the solitary place. Get along to the solitary place and let God minister his power in and through you. Hope this helps you. Bless.